The train was divided into two parts. One went to the east, and ours went from Novosibirsk to the south, to the Barnaul, Semipalatinsk, Alma-Ata, and Tashkent. We traveled about 160 miles to Talmienka, where they had us get out of the train. It was terribly cold. It was a very cold winter. Very, very cold, minus 40 degrees. In Poland, when we left, it had been about minus 25. So in Talmienka, they got us out on the platforms and we waited for horses and sleds. The people who lived there were Mongols. They had small horses and sleds, but they spooked us when they looked at us. They put us on the sleds. Our mother was 7 months pregnant, and they took us deep into the taiga forest. The first settlement was called Zaisovskie. The first group of gamekeepers and foresters with families were left there. Then they took us further. The next settlement was called Czarnienkie, and there they left behind another part of our group. Our family and maybe 10 other families of foresters were taken to Uchastek, number 101. There they set us out and gave us a room. The rooms were small. In the smallest rooms, they put small families, like ours, 4 people. In the larger rooms, they put 2 families of 3 or 4 people each. The next day, the political officer arrived. We had a meeting, Novospitanie, where they gave instructions to those who were supposed to work. He explained why they had brought us here and what we would do here. We all gathered in the biggest room, and he told us, "You came here to work. We brought you here because you are an uncertain, dangerous element for the Soviet Union. And you can forget about Poland. You won't see Poland again. You will work here gathering resin from the trees. If you haven't learned this sort of work before, we are going to teach you. If you didn't want to work, you would be zastavem, which means they would not give you food. And that's how it was. Everybody had a quota to do. With resin, you had to do 4,500 trees in 3 days. If you didn't do 4,500 trees in 3 days, they reduced your food ration of bread and sugar. We only received bread and sugar for work. There was also a common kettle for everybody. One could bring a bowl to the pot where a foreman cooked soup. In the soup, one could find a few strings of beef, cabbage, and potatoes. That's how it was. If somebody made his quota, he was given a small loaf of bread, sometimes more. If you couldn't make it, they gave you 3/4 or half. Of course, the food was not enough, and with only bread, it was natural that the people were getting weak, and they died from this weakness, just like that, in the forest, next to a tree. So we worked in the forest, clearing the trees. That happened around the end of March. We needed more to eat, so I went to a village called Shipichno. I chose to go a longer way. It was around 10 miles. I exchanged part of our clothing for food, and I got maybe 50 pounds of potatoes. I carried the bag over my shoulder, and I decided to return home by a shorter way. One, I was told, was 5 miles shorter. I had to walk over a frozen pond. It wasn't exactly frozen, though. I walked on the ice for a part of it, but then I fell into the water. But I didn't let go of the bag with potatoes. I don't even remember how I got out. I was totally wet. I went through the mountains and canyons, and you had to go up and down, up and down. I got so tired and exhausted, and when I got home, I was steaming. And of course, I got a fever in the night. My mother covered me with the cold towel. The fever almost killed me. In the morning, I felt better, so I went to work. 1 year later, the same thing happened. I got a fever, but it was the last time. We were there until the fall. Where I was, there were maybe 10 families. One family of foresters, one chief forester, and the rest were gamekeepers. We never gave up. We sang Polish songs. There was one forester. I think his name was Jankowski. He was a real Polish patriot. We gathered together and sung Polish songs. The Russians, they didn't like it. We did it anyway. We didn't care what they were thinking or what they would do to us. We knew that we were taken here to die. They also brought, very nearby to us, maybe a mile away, there were 2 barracks, and they brought Jewish people there. They were Jews who had escaped the Germans to the east, to Lvov. The Russians arrested them in Lvov and asked them if they wanted to stay in Lvov or to be returned to Poland under the German occupation. The Jews wanted to be returned to the German-occupied part of Poland. So what did the Russians do? They put them on the train and sent them to Siberia. So they were next to us. We went to visit them. They were in a deplorable state. There was one family with 5 daughters. One of them, the oldest, was a doctor. She helped us enormously.